Hello, everyone. This is Gardner, and today I'm here with Debbie Sasson, and we are talking about keeping Sabbath. Welcome, Debbie. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Dani. It's so wonderful to be here.
Yeah. So I've been talking for the last few months about keeping Sabbath myself, and I've found it's made such a big difference um, really to how I live and how I am, and it's allowed me to finally log off. You know, I had tried digital fasting and just things to sort of switch off because I found I was being way too reliant on my phone, like all sorts of reasons I would find to like pick up my phone. That was the main thing. And also I actually found that on a Sunday, for example, I would end up like, because Sunday mornings were so peaceful, I would end up working. It was like a really lovely quiet time to sort of do something creative for my business. But I also realized that that meant every day I was actually doing something for my business, and I knew that wasn't really healthy. And so I've written a bit about my journey with Sabbath, and I've written a blog. But when I realized you also keep Sabbath, I really wanted to speak to you about it. Because I want to share with everyone like various different ways to do Sabbath. I don't think there's just one way. Of course, if you're following a certain spiritual philosophy or religion, there may be a specific way that you choose to do it. But I think it's also open for those who don't want to do that specific way. You can create your own version as well. So I've got a couple of questions for you today. Starting with, why is Sabbath keeping important for you personally?
So for me, it comes from a religious point of view, a religious lifestyle. I'm Jewish, and even within the Jewish religion, there are different levels, let's say, of observance, to keep it simple: Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, and depending on where you are in the world, those might have different names. But from an Orthodox Jewish perspective, which I adhere to, we have a law that was given. Most people are familiar with the Ten Commandments or the Bible, but it's definitely written in the Ten Commandments that you should keep the Sabbath, that you should keep it holy. And so for me, I keep it because it's a religious commandment, a religious dictate. But that's not the way that I came around to it, because I didn't grow up Orthodox. I grew up, my family is less observant, let's say, Reform. And although we had connections that were more traditional, I didn't keep Sabbath the way that I keep it now. So I come to it from a religious point of view. And for me, it's the way of connecting with our Creator. That was the way, if you look at the beginning of the Bible, God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested.
Yeah.
And our job in the world is to emulate the Creator. And just like he rested, so we also rest on the Sabbath.
Yeah, I love that. And, there seems to be like a lot of guilt around rest, especially for women. So, like we never want to say, like if someone says, how you going? Or, oh, I'm busy, I'm so busy, it's like we wear it like a badge of honor. So I love how Sabbath really invites us to rest.
Yes.
And which brings me to the next question, which is, can you share, what does your Sabbath look like? How does it start? How does it finish? I love hearing this. So I know bits and pieces from the Jewish tradition, but I've not heard it all. So yeah, please share.
Okay, so rest is different from a formal day of rest. I mean, it's not sleeping in your bed all day, and it's not, I can go up and down my stairs. I have a couple stores in my house a million times. I can rearrange my furniture where I'm not resting. So when we look at how we observe Sabbath, we cease all creative activities. Again, just like God stopped or ceased creating. So we don't cook. We don't drive. We don't even turn on lights. Turn lights on and off, because that circuit is building a fire, and there's a creative act in turning on and off the lights. So I leave, for example, I have a hot plate and I put up food before the Sabbath. Some of it will be like a nice stew that goes on the next day, or have a crock pot on a timer where the food cooks for the next day. Our lights are on we call it a Shabbos clock. or Sabbath clock, but it's a timer, an electric timer that it'll go off at 11 o'clock at night, and it'll go on again in the morning, so that the lights go on and off by themselves. But we as people don't do any creative acts in it, and it's a time that we remember, because we can get so busy during our week, and we wear that as the badge of honor. I love that, the way you put that. But we go back to base. We go back to the basics, and we get that shot of adrenaline, that shot of whatever it is that reminds us why we're here. What reminds us who created us. And when we remember to emulate the Almighty, then that it will give us our spiritual rocket fuel to carry us through the week.
Love that. So what do you actually do with yourself? Because I think this is one of the big challenges. Like, if you're not turning on anything and watching or reading or what are you doing with yourself?
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to, admit that on a long summer day, because our day starts when the sun goes down, and it finishes, so for me, it starts on a Friday afternoon, just as the sun is going down, and it finishes Saturday night when it's dark. That's the way the Jewish calendar goes.
Yeah.
And on a long summer day, when you have a very long afternoon and it's very hot outside, and you have a bunch of little kids running around in your house, going stir crazy, and you can't put them in front of any electronic gadgets, and you can't go to the park. It's really hard. I'm not gonna say it's not. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way. But the way it starts is we light candles, as a way of sanctifying the day. So I light candles just before the sun sets, and we say prayers. And we have, anyway, on a regular day, we have regular prayer services in the evening, in the morning, and the afternoon. So we have our regular prayer services. And we have family meals, and we have special foods that we only make for the Sabbath. And the family comes together. We invite guests. There's singing, always singing involved, where we're reminded that we remember that there's a creator to the world. And, some of those, my soul longs to be connected to the creator, or Sabbath is a day of rest, whatever, some beautiful, beautiful tunes, and some are slower, some are faster. And we, around the table, usually we speak about the stories from the Bible. We read every week when we go to the synagogue. We take the Bible. We only follow the Old Testament, not the New Testament. We call the Old Testament the greater world calls the Old Testament, we call the Torah. Yeah. And we split that up into weekly readings. And we discuss that weekly reading each week. And there are questions and answers, and we have even little quizzes that my husband finds online, where he downloads them, and little whatever, just less things that, so that the kids are involved and remembering. And sometimes depending on the day and the weather and the time, we'll go out for a walk afterwards. Then we just go to sleep. Because it can be 10:30 or 11, and there's no phones and there's no gadgets, and we read on the couch and magazines, and sometimes in the winter we'll play games together, and the next morning it's like a similar-ish routine. Saturday afternoon we often will really take an afternoon nap to revitalize us, and then we're more with our kids, games, reading books. When my kids were younger, so we have to entertain them, so otherwise they'll make us nuts. And we build Legos, puzzles, and you have stories.
You have 8 children, right?
Yeah, I have
8. Incredible. Yeah, well done.
Thank you. And now I have 6 grandkids. So now my kids and my grandkids come over, and so then the family stays connected also. It's very beautiful that not every week, but but they come and the family stays together.
Right. So it's a day of very much family, being together, sitting together, eating together, conversations. Beautiful. Excellent. So my final question for you is, how do you feel, or what difference do you feel keeping Sabbath makes to your business life?
I love that I can disconnect. Because as you said it, and I'll even say that during the week, when I first got my smartphone, and I resisted smartphones for a long time, until my clients were like, I sent you a text message and it didn't get anywhere. I'm like, oh yeah, because I don't have a smartphone. So and then you get this toy, and you're addicted to it. So I started, when I go to sleep at night, my bedroom is upstairs. I leave my phone downstairs, because otherwise that turn over in the morning. Did anybody what's going on? What did I miss? Who wants to get into, so I think it lowers that frenzy of always being connected with your business. And sometimes on a Saturday night I would work in my business, but even last Saturday night I'm like, no, this is my day of rest. This is my weekend. And I logged on for 5 minutes maybe. I'm and then I put it away, and I went and did some reading and journaling and things that I wanted to do for me. So I think it gives me space to be creative, to let things simmer in my brain, because we need to create space. We can't always be on.
Yeah.
And I think also, just from a religious, spiritual point of view, the fact that I feel connected to a higher power, and I know that it's not in my hands, right? I try to put my best out there, my best self out there, to give value to my clients. But at the end of the day, it's not about me. And whether the clients come or don't come, I've sort of outsourced that. I will do my job, and God does his job.
Yeah.
So I carry that energy all the time.
Beautiful. So thank you for sharing what Sabbath means to you, what it looks like. I don't think I mentioned when I introduced you that you are a personal finance coach. That's correct, yeah?
That's right, yes.
So if anyone is interested in learning more or connecting with Debbie, I will put the link to her Facebook page and her website. So your Facebook page is pretty straightforward. It's Debbie Sasson, Personal Finance Coach. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And I'll find out what your website is. That's probably as easy.
DebbieSasson.com. There you go.
Beautiful. And I'll put those links in. So, the purpose of this conversation, if you're watching, is to inspire you to consider having your own day of rest or logging off, and using this idea of Sabbath. You might find that it really sticks with you as well, and it's something that you can really commit to, and it's a spiritual practice that you can have for yourself and for your business as well. So thanks so much, Debbie, for joining me in this conversation. And
you're very welcome.
Yeah.
Can I just close with one thing? I think even if your listeners have a hard time committing to 24 hours or all of Saturday or all of Sunday, or what it is, to start small. Even when I was taking on the practice, I would work late on a Friday afternoon and come home, and it started from when I walked in my front door. So even if you set aside 4 hours in the afternoon, you start at 3 in the afternoon, you've done all your things, and then you're like, okay, put it aside. Or the first 4 hours of the day, little pieces that it can bring a tremendous amount of reward also.
Yeah, perfect. And I'll also share the link to my blog, where I've actually come up with a list of things you can do to prepare for Sabbath, and one of them is to actually communicate what you're doing to your family, so that you don't get sort of derailed while you're trying to do it. So yeah, that's a great point. To you can start small, you don't have to get there in one giant step. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Debbie. And
thank you.
Again soon.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye, Dani.